Hi there, my name is Eric Miller, and I'm a student at Baylor University in the School of Education, Learning and Organizational Change doctoral program. And I'm here today to present my study on grit and first destination careers among undergraduate entrepreneurship alumni in the Midwestern United States. It is a qualitative multiple case study of underdogs narrowing the income inequality gap. I'm presenting this and collaborated with the help of Dr. Shelby Vaughn at Baylor University. And let's dive in. So the agenda for the presentation today is going to start with a problem statement and a quick review of the literature. I'll then transition to the purpose statement and research question that guided the research. Talk about the theoretical framework I used to analyze the data, the methodology for the study overall, and then we'll jump into the findings, discuss the implications and recommendations for the four stakeholders I identified, limitations of the study, and then do a brief overview of the distribution plan, give some thank yous, and then show our references at the end. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. So the problem I investigated was undergraduate alumni are failing to find full-time employment within 6 months of graduation, despite career opportunities and future earnings being the primary motivations for attending college. Students are finding it difficult to begin a first destination career within 6 months. Graduation rates, as far as on-time graduation rates, only 59% of students are finishing in 4 years on time with their undergraduate degree as of 2019. And of those that do graduate, only 55.6 of all undergraduates are able to find a job within 6 months. So this is led by challenges in higher education, where there is less career-focused preparation being presented to students when they're there. And then employers are making it harder to get first destination careers because they're becoming stricter with their experience requirements for entry-level jobs. For example, requiring something like 3 years of experience for entry-level openings. This is important because of this challenge, the talent gap is growing, which is represented by unfilled jobs in the economy, which was 10 million in 2022. And this perpetuates income inequality, which, number one, hurts the economy's ability to grow, but then also creates social and political instability within society. So very important problem, very important to solve for those reasons. As far as the literature review goes, I looked at 5 primary domains. The first was market labor demands, career readiness, and the skills gap. Generally speaking, the idea was to understand how the evolving economy in the United States is affecting demand for skilled workers, whether or not students are career ready when they graduate, and if they are not career ready, we see what we call the skills gap, which is the difference between what the students have when they graduate and in terms of capabilities and what employers expect them to be capable of doing. The next piece was parental influence on talent development. So this was an investigation into how parents influence talent as far as their children goes, and what sort of influence they have over them. So, parents do influence their children's development, both psychologically and neurologically. It affects their educational attainment and their social mobility long term. It is really the introduction to what different cognitive and non-cognitive skills that these children will have at their disposal when they are on their own later in life. Also looked at cognitive and non-cognitive skills beyond that to understand how they are becoming indicators of lifelong success and which ones are actually indicators of lifelong success. So cognitive are things that measure knowledge like IQ or GPA, and those have long been studied to predict success long term. The interesting part of this literature review was more on the non-cognitive skill set side, which non-cognitive skills are more behavioral, so think conscientiousness or perseverance. And those have also been shown to be strong indicators of success in many different domains. And so the study by Roberts et al., 2007, really showcased this and actually expressed that non-cognitive skills could be a better predictor than cognitive skill sets, even though they're relatively understudied comparatively. The next section was about entrepreneurship, what it is, and how it helps drive an economy forward. So entrepreneurship, of course, drives economic growth and innovation by transforming knowledge into new ventures. This is typically supported by a collaboration between industry and education, and it's captured, by the economy in terms of economic growth. Beyond that, I looked at how entrepreneurship appears in education, because education is one of the biggest influencers of entrepreneurship in our economy. And we've seen a massive growth in entrepreneurship in education recently in terms of the number of graduates that we have and startup rates for new businesses. But there are still some challenges, particularly in the Midwest. We've seen a reduction in job creation from new ventures. And there's also some perceptions that entrepreneurship doesn't have a go-to journal, academic journal for publishing. So those are the 5 areas I looked at for the literature review. Those components, so the non-cognitive skill sets being as strong a predictor of success as cognitive ones, the decline in Midwest job growth, and the fact that undergraduate entrepreneurship students are struggling to find jobs within 6 months of graduation, helped me derive this purpose statement, which is to explore the grit experience of Midwest undergraduate entrepreneurship students between graduation and their first destination career. The question I wanted to investigate was, how do undergraduate entrepreneurship alumni perceptions of grit behaviors influence their pathway from education to a first destination career? So how do they perceive grit and the grit behaviors that they displayed? How do they describe that those influence their pathway from education to their first career? So I picked GRIT, the theoretical framework. It was created by Dr. Angela Duckworth. And in the study Duckworth et al. 2007, they looked to analyze how GRIT predicted success in a number of different contexts. 2 examples would be a spelling bee and officer candidate school, where they found that GRIT was a successful predictor or a predictor of success in both of those contexts, proving that it was a personality trait that did have an influence on success. So what is grit? Grit is essentially a personal quality that can explain one's ability to achieve long-term goals through persistent effort and focus over time, despite barriers or setbacks. And so it's made up of 2 subconstructs: consistency of interest, known as passion, and perseverance of effort, known as perseverance. And why did I choose it? I chose it because it's longer term focus, which is great for this context of transitioning, because that's a multi-month process. I also chose it again because it's shown success in a multitude of different contexts. So the idea is that it would potentially be a critical factor in this context, as well as the other ones where it has already been studied. Why did I focus on a more qualitative side of it? Again, a lot of the research on grit is quantitative, and I wanted to explore more of the behaviors behind grit and how it showed up in the experiences, rather than just looking for a relationship between someone's level of grit and someone's level of success. So the research design was a multiple case study, holistic, meaning that I looked at each case, all the data for each case, all the data collection types, as one case in one context. And for that context, the holistic, that would be one entrepreneurship graduate at one university in the Midwest. So I had 4 graduates from Midwestern University. They're all accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. This is important so I could understand the level of rigor across the graduates was the same in their programs. I bounded the cases by at least graduating at least 6 months prior to the study, having a successful first destination career within 6 months of graduation, and having a major in entrepreneurship. The data collection types was a qualitative survey where I asked them to reflect on their grit, on their career success, also capture some demographics. I then had them submit a photo through the photo solicitation that was included in the qualitative survey, to have them provide a photo that was representative of their journey and provide some reflection on why they chose that photo. I then followed up with in-depth interviews to describe and explore the full experience that they had transitioning from education to employment. On the right, I included a brief overview of the analysis. So within each case, I created codes and then moved to thematic statements, and then created within case themes. I looked across those within case themes to provide the cross case themes, which I'll go through in just a moment. I aligned those cross case themes to a construct of grit, either consistency of interest or perseverance of effort. For the themes, I developed two. The first theme, nurturing entrepreneurial passion, I aligned to consistency of interest from grit. And there were two sort of sub-themes within here that helped me define this theme. The first was early influences and career inspiration. So um, all the participants had some experience early in life that helped create this deep-rooted commitment to entrepreneurship happening in their formative experiences. So this could have been parents who are entrepreneurs, experiences working in businesses, working on farms, essentially cultivating this desire to be an entrepreneur later on in life, really, really early. The second similarity that helped me define this theme was this desire for lifelong learning and skill development. So each of the participants have had a strong desire for lifelong learning, continuing to learn new skills to be able to be more and more valuable. They did this even in the traditional careers that they did achieve after graduation. And they used those traditional careers to continue to develop knowledge that they might use if they started a new venture. This again was sort of the way that they drove to accumulate entrepreneurial knowledge, was not only by using the knowledge that they gained on site, but also questioning the ways that they could use that knowledge to start something new. So for example, a participant was a financial analyst, and they were using that knowledge they were gaining as a financial analyst to consider how they might start a financial literacy venture outside of that. Within this theme, there were a couple of variances within each of the cases in terms of their motivations for entrepreneurship and their careers. The first that I saw was becoming self-reliant. So being able to not depend on people around them, and be able to depend on themselves and provide for their family and friends and things like that. The second was contributing to economic development. So solving a problem that can improve society was another reason why they wanted to move into entrepreneurship and really help them overcome some of the smaller challenges, knowing that this bigger vision for where they wanted to go. And speaking of that, some of them had a desire to find their full potential and saw entrepreneurship as one of the ways that was maybe the most challenging thing they could undertake that they knew would help them find their full potential along the way. So that's theme one in terms of what influenced them on a pathway to successfully finding first destination career. The second theme was developing resilience for entrepreneurial passion. I aligned this with perseverance of effort. And the two sub-themes within here was career adaptability and resilience in the face of challenges. And so career adaptability really speaks to the ability of the participants to adapt to the market realities. So this means taking a job in a location where they maybe didn't want to be at first, or taking a job that maybe isn't their first pick in order to answer the challenges that they had financially, to pay back student loans or pay for rent. And within this, navigating those professional changes, moving from one career to the next. One participant actually moved from studying entrepreneurship to becoming a nurse, to learning web development, and then becoming an entrepreneur in the restaurant payment space. So continuing to navigate those professional changes was something that they overcame because they saw this benefit to being an entrepreneur. Resilience in the face of challenges was the other one. And they use their entrepreneurial goals, like I just mentioned, to overcome those challenges. So they have this picture of becoming an entrepreneur that's successful, and they see a lot of these challenges as important stepping stones, important things to learn on their pathway to getting there. And as they go through each one of these challenges, they're refining their ambitions and thinking about ways that they can, evolve their picture of what they'll be as an entrepreneur. And so some of the variances here within this theme that I saw was that they do have some different learning approaches. So some of them were self-taught, like teaching themselves web development. Some of them learned on the job. So they're looking for more direct feedback during their traditional, career that they took out of school to help them learn. And then one of the participants actually participated in an accelerator, which was like a supported way of learning entrepreneurship. So essentially that last theme also helped influence their first destination career by, again, helping them overcome some of the many challenges that they saw, because they really saw it as developing this resilience for later entrepreneurial success. So I created a visual to align the literature to this experience that I described. On the top, I have sort of three phases that the participants went through, starting with early influences that created their entrepreneurial passion, then moving to their traditional career paths, where they're continuing to nurture their passion and resilience within entrepreneurship. and then this final sort of payoff of where they have this experience that aids the realization of their entrepreneurial aspirations. So essentially at the beginning of this figure, participants are basically growing their entrepreneurial passion and resilience through the experiences that they have after graduation, before and after graduation, I should say. So really early on, one of the themes from the literature review was parental influence on talent development. And pretty much all the participants acknowledged that their parents fostered an entrepreneurial interest and resilience within them, whether that was working on the farm or going to business meetings with them. They really sort of instilled this early excitement about entrepreneurship and hard work that goes with being an entrepreneur. They also felt that their educational programs really nurtured their entrepreneurial abilities, giving them a firm understanding of what entrepreneurship is, and in some cases, even supporting them to try aspects of entrepreneurship in their program. As far as market labor demands, career readiness, and the skills gap, participants' adaptability and continuous learning really helped them to continue to align the skills that they needed with labor market needs. In some of their cases, they were just trying to find skills that they could use to become a better entrepreneur. So, for example, learning web development overnight, basically to start a business, is something that they kind of continuously did as they were in this traditional career path moving forward. The next piece is, they all sort of acknowledge the value of their grit and helping them overcome career obstacles. So a lot of them really valued their work ethic over, traditional cognitive traits. I didn't hear a lot of, GPA or a lot of those types of things. A lot of what was described was more along the lines of, perseverance, being passionate about helping people, and passionate about improving, their own abilities. And again, at the very end of, basically realizing this entrepreneurship dream, there were a lot of stories that participants shared of, finding this passion to be critical for fostering economic growth in their communities. So a lot of the ventures that they were thinking about starting were in their communities to help people with problems that they had identified in their traditional careers. So as far as implications and recommendations, I found 4 stakeholders to provide these for. First, the students, and the first recommendation is to start a career in a traditional role to build a financial and skill foundation. So use that first career to essentially tackle any challenges you have financially right out of school, but use that to start building the skills that you might use in a venture that you create. I think the second is to recognize and invest in passions to guide your career decisions. Seek support from personal and professional networks. Heard this multiple times from participants, how important it was to be able to go to somebody and ask them questions and get feedback and support to move forward in their careers or entrepreneurial passions. Educators should, in that front, foster students' passions through project-based and culturally responsive teaching methods. So find ways to bring students' experiences in and help them, build their passion for entrepreneurship or whatever that may be, and help them really leverage that to learn and gain experience through learning that way. Enhance career support and realistic expectations for job searching. So I think there's a certain tactical component that these participants missed from education, that they would have liked to know sort of how stressful and tough it was going to be actually after graduation. So I think there's more that educators can do there. I think they can strengthen industry relationships to create better pathways into entrepreneurship and careers. So create better relationships, networking, so that students have sort of a closer gap between them and the professional world. I think entrepreneurship professionals can deepen the relationships with educators in the same vein, kind of the opposite side of the same coin, to help students transition into entrepreneurship. So helping students understand what it looks like to start off as an entrepreneur. How do you make money? How do you support yourself while you're trying to start a new business? And I think along with that, developing inclusive and financially supportive entrepreneurial programs, such as paid apprenticeships. So finding a way to pay students when they're trying to come up with new business ideas, so that you can kind of answer the practical need of needing financial support for rent and student loans and things of that nature, while also giving them a space to practice and become better entrepreneurs. The last piece is for researchers. So I think it would be important to explore how students' experiences help develop non-cognitive skills and impact career success. So looking at specifically what types of experiences create grit within students might help us to replicate how to build grit into more students in the future. I think we should also do some mixed method studies that examine how cognitive and non-cognitive traits impact early career success. So looking at the relationship of, for example, GPA and levels of grit and objective career success, like starting salary, might help us understand the relationship between, these different types of skills and career success that we want to see for students. So there were 4 limitations in the study. The first was a researcher bias towards cross-case analysis, and this is really more of a time-based limitation because the cross-case analysis is so closely tied to the findings from a multiple case study. A lot of researchers tend to bias toward the cross-case analysis to look for similarities across the cases, and this limits the amount of time you can spend on the within-case analysis, and so this is a limitation of the analysis part of this study. Another piece is complexity of synthesis. So when you're doing a multiple case study analysis, you have to look at a lot of details across a number of different cases. And sometimes this leads to missing important data points or overlooking data points, and can reduce like the accuracy of the findings and the credibility if you do not spend enough time, looking into each of the details of that case. And in this case, it tried to call out the variances across the cases to kind of bring forward some of the things that were found in the within case analysis that may not otherwise be called out in a cross case analysis. Next one is recall bias. So this is really the challenge that participants have in memorizing and sharing previous events because they've happened in the past. And this is from Hassan 2005. Basically, it could affect the accuracy and completeness of their shared experiences. The last piece is lack of racial and gender diversity. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to gather as much responses from racially diverse or gender diverse participants, and this limits the perspectives that I can share and include in the findings. So as far as distribution goes, for students, I'm going to be looking at digital platforms where I can share findings from the study, probably using university email lists, and I'll be standing up a dedicated website to share these findings. For educators, I'll be presenting and doing workshops. The idea would be to collaborate with educators to integrate the findings into the types of programs that they're doing. This could be at places like South by Southwest Education or Deeper Learning Conference. For entrepreneurship professionals, this looks like articles and presentations. So it could be some articles published in popular startup or entrepreneurship sources like Entrepreneur Magazine and TechCrunch. It could also be presentations at places like 1871 Chicago, which is a major entrepreneurship hub here in Chicago, and South by Southwest as well. And finally, researchers, again, publications, presentations. The primary route for this is going to be publishing or hopefully publishing in a journal. I've identified 2. Number 1 is the Journal of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which I think is important for the study because it's about entrepreneurship students and how they're doing after graduation. And the second is the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, which is important because of the focus of the study on non-cognitive skills, specifically grit. So that is my study. And I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Shelby Vaughn, who was my advisor and mentor throughout this whole process. I really appreciate your guidance and your feedback and your collaboration. It's been amazing to work with you. And then second, Dr. Marsano, my second reader and reviewer, for your collaboration on the multiple case study, the analysis, and everything in between. I'm just super thankful for your support and guidance. Just really appreciate it. Dr. Werse as well, and the whole Writing Center at Baylor for continuing to push the quality. Again, being super open to collaboration early on in this study, really, I know, helped set me up for success, and I'm very appreciative for that. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Sanguras for setting up this program and creating an opportunity for so many talented students to come and push themselves to be the best scholars they can be. And I'm just so thankful for your leadership. So that is it. Thank you so much. I'll leave some details below for how to get in contact with me if you have any questions about this study. I would love to discuss anything that comes up. So thank you so much for your time.